Okay, super fast. Thanks to everyone who voted in the poll a few weeks ago, but I was kinda surprised how many of y'all wanted this over the funny comments video. Just gonna save it for April Fools, I guess. I don't know. This is kind of a standalone sequel to my original One Hit Wonders video back in June. I say standalone because the only thing these two have in common are being about one hit wonders. What I talk about in regards to them are completely different. And I can use this to talk about bands y'all wanted me to talk about after the last one. Which, by the way, I know I asked for your favorite one-hit wonders at the end of that, but I think some of you might have misunderstood the point of that video. I got comments saying, oh, why didn't you talk about toadies even though you showed them in the intro? I talked about the bands I did for a specific reason. They all had multiple versions of the same song on their Spotify. Yeah, I showed toadies in the intro, but I was on the subject of one-hit wonders as a whole. They didn't get a segment because they don't have outtakes and slow reverb edits of Possum Kingdom. This video is me recommending one-hit wonders that actually have more than one good song. I'm not doing a full discography dive for these guys, but I'll at least recommend other great songs from the same album they're one-hit wonders from. So now that I can talk about whatever one-hit wonder I want, I'm sure a lot of you found these guys after learning what 7/4 is. Their song Possum Kingdom is cool because it switches between 7/4 and 8/4 in the verses. The song is calculated but crazy at the same time, especially when it builds to the outro. The rhythm is super tight while the guitars shriek in the background. This one's from their album Rubberneck, and it's got a lot of great songs that get crazy or utilize weird time signatures too. Quitter is super fast and has a freaky guitar solo by the end, and Mr. Love builds between instrumentals and loud verses. There's also a couple bluesy songs on here too, you know. To be honest, I'm not really that big into blues. A lot of it just sounds kind of samey to me. But I like these ones a lot because they still retain what I like about toadies. Backslider is harsh and uses an odd time signature, and From the Water is just noisy chaos. I will admit there's a couple songs that sound kind of the same, like the main riffs for Away and I-1 both sound like Possum Kingdom if it weren't in 7, and the intro at Tyler reminds me of the intro for Rage Against the Machine's cover of Maggie's Farm. I know Tyler came out first, so technically the Maggie's Farm cover sounds like Tyler, but Maggie's Farm is cooler, and being cooler is more important than being first. There's a lot of great songs on Rubberneck though, so if all you know from these guys is Possum Kingdom, definitely give it a shot. Hopefully this segment satisfied all the disappointed Toadies fans from the last video. You know, sorry my B-roll got your hopes up. Sorry. Next is one y'all recommended after the last One Hit Wonders video, Everything But the Girl. I don't think I've heard these guys before, but you know, last time I said I didn't know someone was with Lou Bega. Y'all made fun of me for that. So for now, I'm gonna use the old, yeah, no, I think I've heard of them before, but I don't know any songs by name. I have plausible deniability. Leave me alone. Their big hit was Missing from 1994, and after listening to it for presumably the first time, I was hooked. I love how dynamic the instrumentation is. You got a dancey, driving bass line mixed with these spacey acoustic guitars and deep synthesizers. We'll talk more about Missing in a sec. For now, let's check out the album it's from, Amplified Hearts, cause wouldn't you know it, there's a lot of great songs on it too. They got a nice mix between acoustic instruments and synthesizers. The opener, Roller Coaster, is a great example of this. The guitar and upright bass sound so organic, and the synth hook is super trippy too. There's a bunch of different styles on this album too. A lot of songs have a particular instrument choice that skews their genre in one way or another. Like Get Me is more folky because of the harmonica, We Walk the Same Line sounds poppy because of the steady drum beat. There's even jazz too. But you wanna know something crazy about these guys? They probably wouldn't be a one-hit wonder if it weren't for a remix of Missing by producer Todd Terry. For context, when the original came out, it wasn't that successful. But Terry released his remix a year later, and that thing blew up. It topped the charts in multiple countries, and some of that fame even trickled back to the original. But we have a case here where a remix of a one-hit wonder is bigger than the actual one-hit wonder itself. It's not the first time this happened if you count covers. One of you made the astute observation confirmation that Who Let the Dogs Out is actually by Anselm Douglas, but the one you hear in every kids movie ever is the Baha Men's version, which is indeed a cover. The remix itself, it's fine. It's the same length as the original, but it tampers with shit that doesn't need tampering. But that's not all. There's also a club remix, and to make it topical with my last video, a radio edit too. These aren't terrible, but I'd never choose them over the original. That version of Missing is amazing, and so is the album Amplified Hearts. There's a lot of cool genre and style mashups, so thank you very much for the recommendation. How about another? Men Without Hats. I like how their name is kinda similar to Everything But the Girl. They both got prepositions, people, and forms of nouns. Everything's a pronoun, so. I'm sure we've all heard Safety Dance in a funny context before. I heard it for the first time in an episode of Family Guy. To be honest, that's how I discovered a lot of music as a teenager. Remember, that's how I found the Dancing in the Streets music video too. Peter Griffin has a good taste in music, what can I say?
We can dance if we want to, we can leave your friends behind.
I like this song, but it's not one of my go-to one-hit wonders. Like, I'm never playing this in the car. It's also got an annoying amount of versions too. The song first came out in Canada in 1982, but got an extended dance mix when it came to the US a year later. This one's almost twice as long and gets boring halfway in. Because of that, I wasn't in a rush to check out Men Without Hats, but per your request, I listened to the album Safety Dances on Rhythm of Youth, and ironically, it ended up being my least favorite song. Everything else was amazing. In fact, something I noticed, nothing else really sounds like Safety Dance on this album. That song is medium tempo and has elements of dance, new wave, pop. There's traces of those on the other songs, but to me, a lot of them sound more like post-punk or power pop. A good example of this is Antarctica. The version of the album I heard has it following Safety Dance, and the difference is night and day. Antarctica is up-tempo and dirty. It sounds like the boss music for a Sega Genesis game. Then you got these bright poppy songs like Living in China and I Got the Message. Both these have a lot of great synth and vocal layers, especially Message.
I got the message.
I feel a lot of one-hit wonders suffer from stigmatization. Because they only had one big successful song, everything else they make gets swept under the rug. That's definitely for the best with some one-hit wonders, but not for these guys. Like I said, their biggest song was my least favorite on the album. You know, partially because of the extended version, but, you know. It's just a shame it got in the way of so many other great songs. Even the single that came out before it, I Like, which I like a lot. It's super trippy. Let this be a lesson to get all your music recommendations from Family Guy. Anytime they reference a one-hit wonder, check out the entire album it's from. It's probably amazing too. I want to dedicate this next segment to the guy who comments Stacy's mom and all my shit. Cause next is Fountains of Wayne, the guys who made Stacy's mom. I know that song's a guilty pleasure and nostalgic for a lot of people, but I've heard it horribly covered too many times to find it ironic or funny. But I actually know these guys more for a song they made almost a decade before Stacy's mom called Sink to the Bottom. For all the other freaks that pay for radio, I listened to Lithium on Sirius XM a lot as a teenager. They're a 90s alt-rock and grunge station, and they'd play this song all the time. But never Stacy's Mom, because that came out in the 2000s and is kind of more like pop-punkish, I guess. I think it would just be out of place sandwiched between Wallflowers and Cranberries, you know? Sink to the Bottom's a great song, though. I love hearing them jam out by the end. I'm gonna bend the rules for this one and recommend songs off the self-titled album that Sink to the Bottom's from instead of the one with Stacy's mom. I'm sure there's a couple good songs on that one too, but it's my video, so I do what I want. I'm not gonna say this album shook me to my core like Men Without Hats, but I was pleasantly surprised with most of it. There's a lot of cool guitar effects on these songs, like tremolo, phaser, flanger, and they're utilized super well. Like how the tremolo is rhythmic on Radiation Vibe, or She's Got Issues, which is super floaty and one of the guitars sounds like it's beeping. There's also a nice balance between slower and melodic songs, like You Curse at Girls and Everything's Ruined. The vocals on that one specific almost sound like a Simon and Garfunkel song. And then you got faster punk songs that also sneak in these occasional acoustic guitar breaks like Survival Car and Joe Ray. This is probably my favorite track on the album. I love the noisy outro it's got. Again, this album isn't anything life-changing, and it doesn't even have the song everyone knows Fountains of Wayne for, but it's still a fun listen, so if by some miracle you know Sink to the Bottom more than Stacy's mom, definitely check it out. Finally, let's end with the Knack, the guys responsible for My Sharona. Funny story about this song, I knew the Weird Al spoof My Bologna way before I heard the original. It was only after it showed up in the Weird Al biopic that I go, shit, I gotta find the original song this is spoofing. After I found it, My Sharona became one of my favorite one-hit wonders. You know, I got my favorite ironic ones like Story of a Girl by 9 Days and nostalgic ones like Cool Kids by Echo Smith, but My Sharona is unironically a great song. It's loud, bouncy, and has one of my favorite guitar solos during the bridge. Having both the poppy verse hooks and the loud ballistic solo is what makes this song so great. The Knack sound is an amalgamation of a lot of stuff. Power pop, punk, some new wave. It doesn't adhere to a specific style or genre and sounds timeless as a result. Like on their debut, Get the Knack, you'll go from pop rock songs like Oh Terra to Siamese Twins, with sprinkles in these Pink Floyd-ass sounding refrains during a punk song. This album sounds especially great to me, both production-wise and the performances themselves. The guitars are super crunchy, the bass cuts through, and the solos too. You know, even as a guy who's not that into guitar solos, I can still point to a lot of songs on this that have amazing solos. My Sharona, like I said, Let Me Out, especially Lucinda. That song is so big. But the instrument I want to shout out the most are the drums. They do so much cool shit during all of these songs. Tons of fills and runs like on Heartbreaker, the reverse cymbal hits on Maybe Tonight, the offbeat cowbell on Siamese, and when they go into double time on the second verse of Your Name or Your Number. You know, everything else in it stays the same, but this one change makes it completely unique to the first half of the song. But out of all the one-hit wonders I talked about today, the Knack's big hits seem to do more harm than good. When My Sharona came out, it was one of those songs that got so big so fast everyone got sick of it, and the Knack became a band that was cool to hate. People were even drawing comparisons between them and the Beatles, how My Sharona was the biggest debut single since Love Me Do, their debut cover kinda looking like with the Beatles cover. Even sonically, people said the Knack sounded like the British Invasion. Personally, I think the covers are a bit of a stretch, and they sound more like the Kinks than the Beatles. But that stigma didn't go away, and by the time they released a follow-up, barely anyone gave a shit about them. Which is a shame, you know, I can't speak for the rest of their albums, but their debut has such a good energy. It's a little suspect, I'll admit, because most of the lyrics are pretty sexual, and there's a song on here called That's What the Little Girls Do. But if you plead ignorance to that, Get the Knack is still a great album that I feel anyone can enjoy at least a little bit. I'm getting tired of rambling about one-hit wonders, so I'm gonna call it here. As always, thank y'all very much for watching. I apologize for delaying this video a bit. My schedule was packed last week watching the Stranger Things finale and getting mad about it. Let me know some one-hit wonders y'all feel deserve more attention in the comments. I was genuinely surprised with how much good music I discovered through this video, so I definitely want to make a sequel in the future. I also left a playlist in the description with a bunch of these songs and extra one-hit wonders y'all recommended from last time. Shoutouts of course to my patrons, and I'll see y'all next time to talk about the Weird Al movie again.